If two people are truly meant to be together, there is a pattern that often appears in a way most people do not notice at first. It is not something loud or obvious. It is not something that looks like perfect timing or instant comfort. It is usually the opposite. It does not matter how different their lives are or how unexpected their meeting feels. There is still something that begins in the same way. Most people think destiny should feel soft and easy. They believe it should arrive with peace, clarity, and a sense that everything finally fits. They imagine two people meeting, smiling, and instantly feeling safe with each other. They expect love to feel simple from the beginning, like nothing needs to be questioned and nothing needs to be learned. But real destiny does not usually arrive in that way. Real destiny often enters quietly and then disturbs everything that was stable before. It does not begin with comfort. It begins with movement. It shakes the life that someone thought they understood. It creates uncertainty before it creates clarity. When two people are genuinely meant for each other, life does not always bring them together right away. Instead, it often creates distance first. It can feel like things are going in the wrong direction. It can feel like timing is not working. It can feel like everything is pulling them apart instead of bringing them closer. During this stage, beliefs are challenged. Expectations are broken. People are forced to see parts of themselves they were not paying attention to before. It is not done to hurt them. It is not punishment. It is preparation for something deeper that they are not ready for yet. Many people misunderstand this stage completely. They think that if something is real, it should be easy. But meaningful connections often do not begin with ease. They begin with recognition. There is a moment where something inside reacts before the mind can explain it. You meet someone and you do not fully understand why they feel different. You may not feel calm. You may not feel secure. You may not feel confident about what they mean in your life. But there is a sense of awareness that feels deeper than logic. It feels like something inside you has been activated. This experience can be confusing because most people expect love to feel peaceful from the beginning. They expect reassurance. They expect stability. But destiny often starts with discomfort instead of comfort. This discomfort does not mean the connection is wrong. It often means it is revealing something important. It shows parts of you that you usually keep hidden. It brings attention to emotions that were not fully processed. It reflects fears that were never fully understood. The other person does not just feel like a partner or stranger. They feel like a mirror in some way. This is why such connections can feel intense very early. They create awareness before they create stability. They bring emotional truth to the surface. And that truth is not always easy to face. Because of this, people who are meant to be together often do not stay together at the start. Life creates separation. Sometimes it happens through distance, sometimes through timing, sometimes through circumstances that feel out of control. One person may not be ready emotionally. One may still be healing from past experiences. One may not understand their own value yet. One may love, but from a place of fear instead of wholeness. Sometimes both people are still learning who they are. When this happens, even good intentions are not enough to hold the connection in place. So life creates space. It slows everything down. It separates them so that growth can happen individually. It is not saying no forever. It is saying not yet. This separation can feel deeply painful. It does not feel like normal loss. It feels confusing and heavy at the same time. It is not just missing a person. It is feeling like something important has been removed from your inner world. Thoughts become louder during this time. Emotions become stronger. People often start questioning everything. Why did this happen? Why did it feel so real? Why does it still affect me so deeply, even when there is no contact anymore? The reason is that this kind of connection does not only touch emotion, it touches self-awareness. It brings hidden patterns to the surface. It shows fears of abandonment. It reveals the need for validation. It exposes habits of overgiving just to maintain connection. These realizations are uncomfortable, but they are also necessary. The pain is not meant to destroy someone, it is meant to awaken them. It pushes them to understand themselves more honestly. Even when there is silence between two people, change continues internally. A person starts to grow in ways they do not always notice at first. They begin to see relationships differently. They begin to understand their emotional needs more clearly. They become less willing to accept situations that drain them. They become more aware of their boundaries. They start valuing honesty and consistency more than intensity alone. Over time, their standards change. They no longer chase people who cannot meet them emotionally. They no longer ignore red flags just to feel connected. They begin to choose peace over confusion. They begin to choose stability over uncertainty. This change does not always feel dramatic. It feels natural, even though it started from emotional difficulty. Slowly, a person becomes more grounded in who they are. Often, they do not realize that this growth was triggered by that one connection. But something in them started shifting the moment that person entered their life. That connection acted like a trigger for deeper self-understanding. It does not create obsession in a healthy sense. Instead, it creates reflection. The focus slowly moves away from the other person and turns inward. Thoughts become less about chasing and more about understanding. Questions begin to appear. Why do I love in this way? Why do I fear closeness? Why do I stay in situations that do not fully support me? Why do I struggle to feel secure even when I care deeply? These questions slowly reshape the inner world. They change how a person sees love. They change how a person sees themselves. A connection like this may not stay in a physical sense, but its effect remains. It continues to influence choices long after the separation. It changes what a person is willing to accept. It changes what they are no longer willing to repeat. Over time, old patterns begin to lose power. People stop chasing emotional uncertainty. They stop confusing intensity with real connection. They stop staying in situations that feel incomplete. Instead, they start looking for something deeper. They begin to value emotional safety. They begin to value mutual effort. They begin to value clarity instead of confusion. This kind of growth often comes from pain, but it leads to awareness. And that awareness is what changes the direction of a life. This is why some connections feel impossible to forget. It is not always about the person alone. It is about what they activated inside you. It is about what changed in your emotional world because of them. Even when life moves forward and new people appear, something can still feel unfinished inside. Not because new relationships are wrong, but because they do not touch the same depth. They do not awaken the same internal transformation. A connection that feels destined does not operate on the same level as ordinary attraction. It is not only about chemistry or comfort. It is not only about excitement or familiarity. It is about transformation and awareness. It enters life to change something, not just to stay. Sometimes it stays, and sometimes it does not. But even when it leaves, it continues to live in the way a person thinks, chooses, and grows. This is why such connections often feel present, even in absence. They return in thoughts during quiet moments. They appear during emotional growth. They show up when a person begins to understand themselves more deeply. It is not attachment in the usual sense. It is integration. The mind and heart trying to place an experience in the right place within personal growth. Trying to understand what was learned. Trying to accept how much has changed since that connection began. And as time passes, the meaning becomes clearer. It was never only about being together. It was also about becoming someone who is capable of healthier love. Some people try to replace such connections quickly. They move into new relationships. They distract themselves with daily life. They tell themselves they have moved on. On the surface, life continues normally. But internally, there can still be a feeling of something unfinished. Not because something is missing in the present, but because something meaningful once touched a deeper layer of the self. A destined type of connection does not compete with new experiences. It exists in a different emotional space. It is not about who is better or worse, it is about depth and transformation. And that is why it cannot simply be replaced. It is not just a relationship, it is an experience that reshapes how a person understands love, connection, and themselves. In the end, whether two people come back together or not is not always the main point. Sometimes the real purpose was never just union. It was growth. It was awareness. It was becoming more whole as an individual. And once that transformation begins, it continues quietly in every part of life. It is about becoming more honest with yourself. It is about being pushed to see parts of your own mind that you may have ignored for a long time. Destiny does not only work on the connection between two people. It also works on each person separately before anything can come together again. Distance is not a punishment. It is a learning space. While two people are apart, life is shaping them in different directions. This shaping often comes through discomfort, confusion, and moments of emotional pressure that feel hard to understand at first. One person starts learning boundaries. They begin to understand what it means to say no without feeling guilty. They stop giving more than they receive. They slowly realize that love is not supposed to require self-loss. They understand that choosing themselves is not selfish, it is necessary for emotional balance. The other person begins to learn responsibility for emotions. They start to understand that silence can still hurt someone deeply. They realize that avoiding feelings does not make them disappear. They see that intentions alone are not enough if actions cause pain. They begin to understand that connection requires effort, honesty, and emotional presence. One person learns self-respect. They stop accepting uncertainty as proof of love. They stop waiting for answers that never come. They begin to see that consistency matters more than intensity. They realize that confusion is not a sign of destiny, it is a sign of imbalance. The other person learns emotional courage. They learn to stay present with discomfort instead of running away from it. They begin to face vulnerability instead of avoiding it. They understand that real connection requires emotional honesty, not emotional distance. One person learns how to stop chasing. They realize that love cannot be forced into existence. They understand that chasing someone who is not ready only creates pain and imbalance. They begin to see that real love cannot be controlled or pressured into form. The other person learns how to stop running. They begin to understand that distance does not remove emotional truth. It only delays it. They realize that avoiding connection does not protect them. It only postpones growth that will eventually return anyway. Both people are changing at the same time, but neither of them can see the full picture yet. This lack of clarity is part of the process. If everything was understood too early, growth would stop. Uncertainty creates space for inner development. During this time, illusions begin to fall apart slowly. Life removes false beliefs one by one. Beliefs like love should always feel easy. Beliefs like real love never creates pain. Beliefs like if someone truly cares, they will never leave. Beliefs like love must always mean staying no matter what. These ideas feel comforting at first, but they often create emotional dependency. They create fear of loss. They create expectations that no human relationship can fully satisfy. So life begins to remove them through experience rather than explanation. This process does not feel gentle. It often happens through silence, distance, emotional confusion, and moments where you are left alone with your thoughts. In those moments, something starts to change inside you. You begin to see yourself more clearly. You notice patterns in your behavior that you never paid attention to before. You start to understand where you ignored your own needs just to keep someone close. You begin to recognize where you gave too much and received too little in return. You slowly learn that love is not meant to save you. You understand that another person cannot heal what you refuse to face within yourself. You begin to see that real connection starts with emotional wholeness, not emotional emptiness. Over time, there comes a shift. You stop needing them in the same way. You stop checking for signs. You stop waiting for messages to define your emotional state. You stop hoping that their return will finally complete something inside you. And this shift does not feel painful in the way you expected. It feels quiet. It feels steady. It feels like something inside you is finally resting after a long period of emotional tension. This is the point where growth becomes visible. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed yourself to let go of needing a specific outcome. Real love is not based on dependence. It is based on choice. When two people can stand on their own, when love is no longer a survival need, but a conscious decision, something begins to realign. If they come back into each other's lives, they do not come back the same. They come back more aware, more grounded, and more emotionally responsible. If they do not come back, the lesson is still complete. You are no longer the same person who entered that connection. You are clearer. You are stronger. You are more aware of your emotional world and your needs. This is the truth of deep connections. They are not only about being together, they are about transformation. They enter your life to change something within you, to awaken awareness, and to guide you toward a healthier understanding of love and self-respect. When people who are truly meant for each other find their way back after time and distance, something feels different. It is not loud. It is not chaotic. It does not feel like confusion or emotional pressure. Instead, it feels calm. Your body relaxes before your thoughts even catch up. There is less tension inside you. There is less fear about what might go wrong. There is no need to prove anything anymore. You are no longer trying to perform love or protect yourself from it. What replaces that is honesty. A simple and natural honesty that does not need explanation or defense. Words feel clearer. Silence feels lighter. Boundaries feel respected without effort. The connection feels deeper because both people have already faced their internal struggles separately. It feels more stable because emotional chaos has already been experienced and understood. It feels more real because illusions have already been broken through experience. There is awareness in the way communication happens. There is care in the way silence is handled. There is respect in the way boundaries are honored. There is no need for emotional games or uncertainty. There is clarity about where each person stands. There is no confusion about intention. There is only recognition. A feeling that something familiar has returned, but now with maturity and emotional understanding supporting it. Still, even with all this growth, not all connections return in physical form. Some people do not come back into each other's lives. This does not mean the connection was false or meaningless. It means its purpose may have already been fulfilled. Some connections are not meant to last forever in the same form. Some are meant to enter your life, create emotional change, and then step away once their role is complete. They are not failures. They are transformations. Some connections are meant to break cycles that have existed for years. They reveal emotional patterns that were learned early in life. They show where love became mixed with fear, where attachment replaced safety, and where silence was mistaken for peace. They bring awareness to what you have been repeating without noticing. They show you what needs healing instead of repetition. Other connections are meant to teach self-respect. They reflect how you allow yourself to be treated. Through them, you begin to see where you compromise your boundaries, where you silence your needs, and where you abandon yourself just to maintain closeness. These lessons are not easy, but they are important. Without them, the same emotional cycles would continue without change. Some connections awaken emotional depth that was hidden inside you. They remind you that you are capable of feeling deeply, caring fully, and connecting honestly. Even if they leave behind a more open version of you. Others redirect your life path entirely. They influence your decisions, your standards, and your direction. They do not remain because their purpose was not permanence. Their purpose was preparation. This does not make them less meaningful. It makes them important in a different way. Their value is not in duration. Their value is in impact. Many people wonder why these experiences often feel difficult before they feel meaningful. Why they begin with confusion instead of comfort. Why they sometimes involve loss instead of gain. The truth is that destiny does not prioritize comfort. Comfort keeps people stuck in familiar emotional cycles, even when those cycles are unhealthy. Destiny focuses on growth, even when growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes it removes people before you are ready to understand why. It creates separation before clarity arrives. It forces reflection before answers become visible. At first, this feels painful and unfair. You question everything. You question your choices. You question your worth. You question what went wrong. But over time, understanding begins to form. You start to see that staying would have kept you in an older version of yourself. You begin to realize that separation forced emotional growth that you were avoiding. There is a consistent truth that appears in these experiences. When two people are truly meant for each other, they often need to grow separately first. They need time to release illusions. They need time to understand themselves individually before anything can exist between them in a healthier form. During this period, emotional cleansing happens. False beliefs are removed. Unreal expectations about love are broken down. Personal wounds are brought into awareness so they can be understood instead of ignored. This is not punishment. It is preparation. It is not about past mistakes. It is about future readiness. It is a process of becoming more emotionally aligned with a deeper form of love. During this time, you learn boundaries in a new way. Not as walls that push people away, but as clarity that protects your emotional space. You learn self-respect that does not depend on external validation. You learn that your worth does not increase or decrease based on someone else's presence. You learn how to love without losing yourself. You learn how to care without self-abandonment. You learn that being chosen by someone else is not the same as choosing yourself first. Only after this inner transformation begins does life reveal what comes next. Sometimes it leads back to reunion, where two people meet again with clearer minds, calmer emotions, and stronger inner stability.